So I'm up here in Seattle and visiting some family. And one of the things I like to do when I'm down here is come down and visit the lake, because I grew up spending a lot of time in the summer, jumping in the lake, swimming, spending time down along here. It's one of the few sort of relatively, I don't know if I can even say natural, because this has been heavily altered by people, but one of the few areas in the city where nature still has some presence, and there are non-humans around, and there are some eagles that live here, and some fish that live in this lake, and some beavers, and there's some wildlife. And continuing on the theme of things that I've talked about for a long time, the margins, the things that happen on the outskirts of society. I just want to talk about this for a minute, because I think often about what this lake would have looked like prior to civilization, when there were thick, contiguous old-growth forests surrounding this entire lake. And I believe there was something like, I'm going to make this number up, but something like a dozen native village sites scattered around this lake in different locations, I think from a couple different native nations. I might be wrong on some of those details, but you get the idea. This was an ecological paradise, and you had salmon runs, big salmon runs coming through this lake, going up the Black River, which has now been completely diverted. The Black River no longer exists, or it has been diverted completely to a different watershed. This lake also used to be about 10 feet higher in elevation. The water used to be about 10 feet higher. That was changed when they put in the Ballard Locks up in North Seattle and put in an artificial blocking system to adjust the water levels to allow boats to move in and out of the lake and of these waterways. That lowering of the water level of the lake was the first step in the complete, or a large step in the complete devastation of the wetlands that used to surround this lake. Many of the areas around here, about 2 miles south of where I'm at, there was a massive wetland that stretched inland for quite a ways and took up, maybe 30, 40, 50 acres, I would guess, of wetland in this one little small section of the lake where you had a creek draining down. All of that is destroyed now. The water level was lowered, the water drained out of the wetland, and the city actually used that site as a garbage dump for many years. And, now it's been quote-unquote reclaimed and is a city park. But, the wildlife that does exist there is a fraction of what was there before. There are a few birds, and there's some non-native grass and blackberries, and that's about it. It's in a state of ecological devastation compared to what it used to be. So as you these are just a few of the many issues affecting this lake. And when you have a lake around which there are probably, I'm going to guess, 1 million people living in the watershed of Lake Washington, if not more, the amount of pollution that goes into the lake is stunning. There's, all kinds of runoff from roads. There's fertilizers, pesticides, oil, all kinds of, the breakdown products of rubberized tires and brakes, all kinds of shit going into this lake all the time. And so, there is some wildlife that manages to survive here still, because life is tenacious. I'm looking at a bufflehead over here. Bufflehead is a species of waterfowl. And, so I try to come down here because this is a place that's important to me. And I came down here today, and I just want to show you who I found. I thought this buddy was dead at first, but he's not. I don't remember what type of turtle this is. I think it might be a painted turtle or something like that, a red painted turtle. I'm not sure exactly. But I'm familiar with this species because I've seen them around the lake since I was a kid, and seen them swimming underwater and seen them on the shorelines and seen their shells here and there. This is one of the species that has managed to survive so far. But, look at where this turtle is living right now. I mean, look at this. So This is the floating bridge. We are underneath a freeway. They're building a new light rail system here to take, millions of people back and forth across the lake to their work. Public transit is gonna save the world, right? That's a whole nother conversation. But look at this. I mean, this turtle is right here under this pillar, right there. That's the turtle, right here. There's this gigantic pillar that it's underneath, and it's just sitting on this, this bark that the Parks Department put in here next to some English ivy, non-native species, and some trees that look like they were put in by the Park Department too. This is what this fucking turtle has to work with. There is no native habitat left on land for this turtle to go to that represents a healthy place. So I don't know whether this turtle is looking for, whether it's sick, whether it's dying, whether he's looking for, he or she is looking for a place to, lay eggs, or is sort of going into some hibernation state or torpor. I don't know that much about turtles, so I don't know anything. But, god damn, it's sad to just come down here and see this wild being in this loud ass place where you can hear the trucks, roaring overhead, and the cars roaring overhead, and the air is full of pollution, and this turtle is surrounded by concrete and all of this. I mean, this is the reality of civilization, of cities, is that you take beautiful, abundant, lush natural habitats, natural communities, and you completely destroy them. And what does remain is the few creatures who are able to survive in a state of ecological impoverishment, who can cling to life. But even the creatures we do see, I'm gonna walk down here because I just saw what I think is a flock of some other birds over here. There they are. I don't know if you can see them over there. That's a flock of birds. Are they called coots? I think those may be coots. I'm not sure. I'm not a total expert on these things. I'm familiar with these birds because I see them often. There's about maybe 100 of them right there. They like to overwinter here on the lake. And it's sad because we see that, I see that, and say that's a lot of birds, but if you had been here 150 years ago, you would have seen waterfowl beyond counting across this entire lake. You would have seen thousands upon thousands upon thousands of geese and ducks and swan and goose and all kinds of wildlife of different types, and fish migrating through the waterways, and lush old growth forest remaining in some areas. Maybe you have to go back a little further than 150 years, because 2020, that's only 1830, right? The destruction began pretty early in these regions. Seattle was hit hard pretty early on. So I don't really know what to do with this turtle. I think I'm just gonna leave him or her alone because I don't know best. And maybe maybe there's some good reason for this turtle to be here. His or her eyes are closed, but when I touched it, it moved. I don't want to disturb it again, but this is the situation we're in, and it's we are so used to this. It's so normal that people forget that every situation like this, every park like this located under a freeway, every house along this shoreline, every bit of this land is natural habitat that has been destroyed and developed. And here's this turtle trying to survive in the middle of it.